welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, my name is Wendy. Welcome to Makeup and Crime, where we sit down, do our makeup, and talk about crime that's been happening in the United States as well as around the world. And if you are not new here, hi, welcome back. Thank you so much for everyone that has viewed my last video. I think it's one of the most viewed videos that I have on my channel. Well, analytics says it is. So I'm so glad you're enjoying my videos. And if you have Instagram, you can always find me on Instagram as wendyable.x, and there I just share a little bit of insight of what motherhood to me is like, as well as my marriage. And shall we get started with today's story? Today's story is a crazy one. Today's case takes place in the United Kingdom in Cheltenham. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. If you joined me on my last video, just know that pronunciation for me is a hard one. So bear with me, but it is Cheltenham, UK. So our story starts with Molly Mclaren, who was a 21-year-old A-grade student. She took, in her second year of university, she took health and fitness classes. She had a promising career of being a fitness instructor and blogger. Molly's friends describe her as charming, enthusiastic, bouncy, a lively personality, that if she walked into a room, she would light up the room with her smile. She was very outgoing. She was also the joker of the pack, and her friends said that she would always brighten up your day. No matter what you were going through, she would come up to you and ask you what was going on, and always tried to make you feel better because she didn't want anybody around her suffering. She was a fitness junkie. She loved going to the gym with her friends or by herself. Like I mentioned, she did have a fitness blog, so she would go often to the gym and film her workouts and post them online. Molly did battle with bulimia behind the scenes. Her closest friends did know about this struggle, but the ones who weren't closest to her didn't. But that's why she loved fitness so much, is because with fitness she found the balance in her life that she needed, and it just made her feel better, and it made her feel like she was fighting. I don't want to use the word fighting, but she was overcoming her bulimia. Her friends said that while everybody is in the university, everyone wants to be dating somebody, but Molly wasn't this type of girl. Molly was looking for the right person. She wanted to find the love of her life, the person that she wanted to spend the rest of her life with. Molly was also the type of person that if she did something, literally anything, she would put her 100% on it. She did not like to give half energy, as some of you would say, but she would give 100% of her in any project and anything that she would be doing at life. That's a little bit about Molly Mclaren. This brings us to June 18th, 2016. Molly in 2016 decides that she was going to start dating, so she creates a Tinder profile. She matched on Tinder with a guy named Joshua Stimson, who lived 9 miles away from her, and it was actually Molly who decided to message Joshua first through the Tinder app. After she sends the first message, they talked for quite some time, and then they finally decided to meet up in person. And once they met up in person, they spent their time together and eventually got into a serious relationship. Once they started to date, they started doing a couple things. So they went out to eat, dance, drink, and of course exercising, because Molly was a fitness junkie, and she loved that her and Joshua had that in common, the fitness side, because it just connected them a lot more in their relationship. Of course, if you're in a relationship, you know that you can trust the person you're with, and that's how Molly felt with Joshua. She felt that she could tell Joshua anything from battling with bulimia, mental health, anxiety, to other stuff, exercising, or just things that she wanted to share with Joshua. And she felt like he was the right person to do that with. Now, Joshua didn't share as much, I want to say, with Molly, because he did have a horrible past and not an easy childhood as well. Joshua's parents split up when he was very young, so he was mostly raised by his father, and his mom moved out of the house. Joshua also in his childhood had been treated for depression. Besides depression, he also suffered from anxiety. He did share with Molly about his depression and anxiety. When Molly hears that Joshua had been treated for depression and suffered from anxiety, she thought that she could help Joshua and vice versa. She thought, okay, like we're going through the same thing. We have so much in common. We can help each other through this, hold each other accountable, and be there for each other. On January 2017, after the holidays, and I think holidays for them is vacation. I forgot to look that up, but in the UK, I believe they call it holidays. But after the vacations, after the holidays, Molly goes back to the university. By the time she goes back to the university, she had been dating Joshua for a few months now. Molly makes the decision to introduce Joshua to her friend Amelia. The way that Molly thought that she was going to introduce Joshua to Amelia was to go to the gym together and do a gym exercise. And that's exactly what they did. Now, Amelia does make the comment that Joshua wasn't overly chattery, and she mentions that she was gonna open of course she was going to welcome him with open arms, because if Molly was happy, she was happy as well. While they were at the gym, Amelia makes a joke. She didn't specify what type of joke it was, but she did make a joke. And after Amelia left the gym with Molly, Joshua texted Molly about, the encounter and the jokes, and Amelia states that it felt like Joshua was trying to come between them two. And Amelia states that situation just immediately put her off and didn't think anything good about Joshua. After about 4 months of Molly and Joshua dating, Joshua starts changing, and Molly's friends start noticing this change in Joshua. Joshua wants to be with Molly 24/7. If she was at the house, he would show up unannounced or text her like, hey, what are you doing? And Molly's friends state that it just felt like he was just being over manipulated. Molly started to feel suffocated with Joshua because he would not give Molly space to breathe or be by herself or spend time with her friends. So Molly decides to text Joshua saying, hey, I'm starting to feel pressured. I need more space in our relationship. Joshua doesn't take this very well. He started using things that Molly had confided in him and putting that against her, and he just became very unexpected and a weird, bad, toxic behavior. Molly, of course, told Amelia what was going on with Joshua, and Amelia knew at an instant that what Joshua was doing wasn't right, and the ultimate end goal for his actions was to isolate Molly from all her friends and family members. In March 2017, Molly decides that enough is enough and decides to break things off with Joshua. And of course, Joshua being Joshua, he doesn't take this very kindly, or doesn't take it the right way, I would say, and starts text bombing her phone, saying, please don't do this, I will literally beg, please do not break up with me, one chance is all I'm asking for. And Molly just is not budging. Remember how I said Joshua didn't share his past, all of his past with Molly, like important things? Well, in his past relationships, when ex-girlfriends have broken off with Joshua, he never takes it well. His behavior becomes very violent and threatening. And then one of Joshua's ex-girlfriends did say that when she broke off with Joshua, he didn't take it well, and Joshua went to the point where he spit at this girl's face, and with another ex-girlfriend, he slashed the tires and threatened to drown her. Molly doesn't know any of this or any of what Joshua has done in the past. So a few weeks after their breakup, Molly decides to take Joshua back against any advice from Molly's friends. Molly's friends were saying, do not take this guy back, he is not worth it. But Molly's friends do believe that because of everything that Joshua threw back at her with the confide things that Molly told Joshua, that this brought guilt upon herself, and guilt is eventually what made her go back to Joshua, because he made her feel that way. Now, I know I've never been in a toxic relationship or an abusive relationship, but I know many people who have been in toxic or domestic abuse relationships state that it's very hard for the person that's in it to see what the other person is doing, how the other person is manipulating them. So I'm guessing that's what's happening here, that Molly is just not seeing it at this moment because she is so caught up with him. Of course, I'm thinking Molly is saying, okay, one more chance, he's gonna change. He's told me he's gonna change, that he's gonna be different, to take him back. But as soon as they get back together, Joshua is back to his old behavior and wants to be with Molly 24/7. So if Molly wanted to go out with her friends and she told Joshua, hey, I'm going out with my friends, he would invite himself and be like, oh, where are we going? Or what time should I be there? Who's gonna be there? Who are you going with? All these questions, and Molly would just look at him like... Molly's friends think that this is him not wanting Molly to have any alone time or associate with her friends. And they say, hey, this is not okay. His behavior is not okay. Then May 2017, Molly decides to go on vacation, or should I say for the holidays, with Joshua to Tenerife. I hope I'm saying that right. This was Molly's last chance to work on their relationship. So when I say this was Molly's last chance, I'm saying that she was giving Joshua one last chance to see some change in him. If not, this was it. No more. So she thought that maybe if it was just the two of them, maybe things will make her feel different about the whole situation that was going on. But things don't go as planned. While she's on vacation, she texts her friend Amelia and lets her know what's going on. She lets her know that they're not getting along well and that he's not listening to her. And of course, Amelia gets worried because she's out there alone. She doesn't have anybody to confide or go to in case, you know, she just wants to get away from him. Amelia did state that Molly told her that Joshua wasn't listening or getting on board with anything that Molly was saying. Once their vacation was over, when Molly got home, she was determined to break things off with Joshua. On June 17th, 2017, Molly was out celebrating her 23rd birthday with her friends at a nightclub. And even though Molly had been having arguments and fights with Joshua over text messages and Messenger, they were still a couple. Her birthday was going good, but eventually Joshua and Molly got into a little argument, and this, how we say in Spanish, la última gota que derramó el vaso, the last drop that made the cup tip over, if I'm translating that correctly, because she said, okay, enough is enough, I'm done, I'm breaking up with you. As soon as Joshua hears this, he becomes very aggressive towards Molly. Amy, Molly's friend, states that this was the first time they officially physically, I should say, saw Joshua with this aggressive behavior. Before, they had just had Molly tell them the way that he was acting, but this is the first time they physically see him being this aggressive, and his behavior was just nasty. Even after they broke up, they were still getting into arguments over messages, social media, Messenger, and Molly decided to block him on all social media platforms. Joshua did not like that Molly blocked him on everything. He became enraged, and I may be laughing, but it's just so funny because I'm just like, why can't you take a hint? He started publishing malicious things, things that weren't true about Molly on Facebook. Molly, remember, blocked Joshua, and she was made aware of this because some of Molly's friends still had Joshua on their friends list, so they were able to see what Joshua was posting about Molly, and as good friends, they let Molly know what was going on. Joshua even posted text messages that had been exchanged between him and Molly up on Facebook. And his end goal was to publicly I can't talk today. What the heck? His goal was to publicly humiliate Molly. And you know what this SOB did? He even tagged Molly's family on the post that he was making about her, because he is just a nasty person and can't take no for a freaking answer. And remember how I said Molly had her fitness vlog? Well, he posted, I think it was a video of or a post that said that Molly was using cocaine, because remember, she was all about healthy living, fitness, and this was just with the intent to destroy what she had built, the community that she had built for herself. Molly's friends and family ended up blocking Joshua, and that made him mad that I'm just laughing because, like, you don't have to do any of this. All of this is unnecessary. It's unnecessary what he's doing. But he switched his abuse through he switched over to WhatsApp to continue tormenting her. When he switched over to WhatsApp, he would send Molly really nasty comments and really nasty things. Molly became scared about the messages because she eventually thought that Joshua was going to show up to her house unannounced, and her family was not in town. They were away. So she texted her family to let them know what was going on. What really worried Molly and her family and friends was a post that Joshua made saying there's more to come. By June 22, 2017, Molly decides to take screenshots of the messages that had been exchanged between her and Joshua and all his tormenting and bad behavior and things that he has posted on the internet as well. She then proceeds to talk with her mom, and they both come into accordance to take all of this information down to the police station. And their ultimate goal of this was to see how they can take this down from social media and to get some protection for herself. Once they had talked to the police officer at the police department, Amy, her friend, states that what the police officer decided to do is definitely chilling to her, because he decided to call Joshua, put him on speakerphone, and tell him to take down the posts. Molly and Molly's mom could hear everything that the police officer and Joshua were talking about. And the police officer ultimately told Joshua, well, we aren't going to have to talk about this again. I'm going to read my notes because I want to make sure that I say correctly what Joshua told the officer. And Joshua told this to the officer. We aren't going to have to talk about this again, are we? Joshua replied, aren't we? And it amazes me that even after Joshua responded this way, the police officer didn't decide to take this any further. It's like, you're gonna let somebody talk to you? You're a police officer. Like, you could demand respect and see what he's capable of. I forgot to set my face. After Molly got out of the police department, she texted her friend Amy and told her that she was frightened because of how cold and emotionless Joshua sounded on the phone. Molly was pretty much upset every day after all this mess started. She wasn't herself. She couldn't concentrate. She was a mess. And I definitely understand, because I would be a mess too. Molly's mom was very concerned about Molly's safety, that she decided to print out pictures of Joshua and hand them out to the neighbors just to be on the lookout, and in case anybody saw him, to contact the police or contact them directly. June 27, 2017, Joshua Stimpson goes to his work like any other day, but he does do something differently. He decides to leave his job early. For what, Joshua? For what? He drives to Asda in Cheltenham, which it looks like a supermarket, like a Walmart, I want to say. And there he buys a sabatier paring knife, and then later on that same day buys a pickaxe. Why do you need a knife? Why do you need a pickaxe? Why? But of course, since the police didn't do anything, they didn't follow him, they just told him, hey, take down the post. They didn't know what he was up to. That evening, the police called Molly to let her know that Joshua had called them and told them that he was going to take down the post that he had made. As far as we know, Joshua can be a very manipulative person, and he works his manipulative, I don't even want to call it a charm because it's not, but he decides to use his manipulative behavior to manipulate another girl to add Molly as a friend on Facebook. And she does that. She adds Molly on Facebook. We know he does this because all of Molly's friends, including family members, have blocked Joshua from Facebook, so he cannot see what Molly is up to and he cannot see what any of her friends are up to. Joshua is always one step ahead, and I feel that that's very common with people who have manipulative behavior. I don't know much about manipulative behavior, but I do feel like they do manage to always be one step ahead of you. So he was one step ahead by having this girl add Molly as a friend, because this way he could keep tabs on Molly. So this girl that had Molly on Facebook, she would literally report everything that Molly did back to Joshua. So if she said, I'm going out for a run, she would tell Joshua, text him and say, hey, Molly's going out for a run, or hey, Molly is doing this, hey, Molly is doing that. Then June 28th, 2017, Molly was getting ready to go out on a girls' night. Molly did post a picture up of where she was going to be that night. So the reason Molly was going out on this girls' night was because they were celebrating Molly getting into a PT class, and another friend of theirs had recently gotten a promotion at their job, so they were celebrating them and just celebrating life. Everything was going well for them. Joshua knows where Molly is at. She's at this Chatham bar at the dockside, and all of a sudden Joshua shows up with this other girl, and the night quickly turns because they look at Molly, look at Joshua, and it's like, this is a strange coincidence that he's here with another girl. But Molly tells her friends, you know what, I'm not jealous, and since I'm not jealous, I know that I don't feel anything for him anymore, and the decision that I made to leave him, to end things with him, was the right one. So after the night was done, Molly decides to get up out of her chair and head to the bar to see where she could pay for her parking. And guess who was at the bar? Joshua. Joshua looks at Molly and smiles. How creepy is that? Smiles. This is what made her friends think, like, is this a coincidence, or did he know that Molly was gonna be here with us? After that, everybody decides to leave, but they come into like this, it's not an argument, but they come to this conversation, and they agree that they were gonna stay for a second round of drinks. And Molly, she just wanted to get home and watch her show, so she decided to call it a night. She got up from the table, and nobody thought about walking her to her car because they didn't think that Joshua was going to do anything to her or harm her in any way. So she was walking to her car, got into her car, and drove home. But Joshua was right behind her and started following her all the way to her house. In June 29, 2017, Molly is getting ready to go to the gym. She's taken a shower, she's put on her gym clothes, gets into her car, and is driving towards her gym, and does not know that Joshua has been following her ever since last night. So a few minutes before 10 a.m., Molly makes it to the gym. She goes inside the gym, is prepping her station, and then a few minutes after she has entered, guess who enters the gym? Joshua. That morning on her way to the gym, Molly was talking to her friend Amy. Amy reassured Molly that she made the right decision by ending things with Joshua, And Molly was feeling good. She was feeling good. She was starting to get over everything that has happened. Now, if you do search the Molly Mclaren case, there is a video where you can see when Joshua enters the gym. You can see him going up the stairs, hesitates, goes back down the stairs, stop, turns back around, and makes his way up to where Molly is. When Molly sees that Joshua is there, she is startled and is like, what the F? Like, what is he doing here? Molly ended up texting a picture of Joshua to Amy, and she texted the following: WTF, he's just turned up and come right next to me. Amy replied, I don't think that's right. He showed up last night to dinner, now here. Molly then proceeds to walk up to Joshua next to him and ask him, why are you not at your job? Joshua, being the manipulative, aggressive person he is, replies to Molly by saying, well, that's none of your business. So Molly is, of course, terrified, and Amy is worried for Molly's safety. They both try to come up with ways on how he could have found out that Molly was at the gym. And Amy asks, have you posted anywhere where you were going to be at? And she says, no, I haven't posted it anywhere. I don't know how he could have found out that I was here. After this, Joshua just decides to leave, and Molly is uncertain of what she needs to do or what to do next. But Molly, you know, she's texting with Amy, so she texts Amy saying like, what should I do? Amy's saying like, take yourself out of the equation, just leave, go home. Molly then proceeds to call her mom, and her mom tells her the same thing, like, get your stuff and get out of there, come home. Since Joshua had left and gotten into his car, he was just driving around the parking lot waiting for Molly to come out. While she's walking out the gym, she's texting Amy saying, I'm always having to look, over my shoulder. And Amy replies by saying, don't have any type of connection with him. Don't talk to him. Don't worry about him. He's a psycho. Molly does not reply to that text message because she is opening up her car. She is getting into her car, but what she doesn't know is that Joshua is walking towards her car, and before she could close the door, Joshua jumps into Molly's car. Once Joshua gets into Molly's car, he stabs her 75 times. That is overkill. That is anger being let out on an innocent human being. Do you know how much force you need to stab and how much energy you need to stab somebody 75 times? Well, remember how Molly was texting Amy? A friend of Amy's texted her and said, have you seen what has happened at the dockside? And Amy states that since she was at work, she quickly just Googled what was happening, and she said, wow, that's awful. It never crossed her mind that it could be her friend Molly Mclaren. She starts texting and calling Molly, and then all of a sudden Amy gets this weird feeling in her gut, like something wasn't right, and her gut was right. Police officers arrive at the scene. Joshua was taken into custody without bail. Joshua's trial was at Maidstone Crown Court in the UK. He thinks he's slick because he tries to make a plea of, and I'm gonna read my notes because this is difficult for me to pronounce, but he makes a plea for manslaughter on the grounds of diminished responsibility. And me not knowing any political or court words, I googled what diminished responsibility meant because I'm like, what the heck does that mean? But diminished responsibility is a defense available in some jurisdictions when a person charged with murder has some form of mental disorder, transient or otherwise, but who is not insane in the legal sense. If it succeeds, a verdict of manslaughter is returned. Molly's family and friends were really worried because they were thinking, is he really gonna walk out of here without taking any responsibility of what he did to my friend, what he did to my daughter? They were really scared that he was not gonna get a guilty plea, a guilty verdict, I should say. Well, during the trial, remember of those ex-girlfriends that I talked about that Joshua had, the one that he spat in the face at and slashed the tires? Well, they testified in court and said that exactly how he acted, and it's exactly how he acted with Molly. He couldn't take no for an answer, and he became a very aggressive person, and that all came up in court. The jury took 4 hours to come back with a verdict. And it was a unanimous verdict, okay? Everybody agreed on this. They convict Joshua of murder, and he is sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole, as it should. He doesn't deserve to be out here after what he did. This is a person who is a danger to society, in my own words. Let me say the exact words the judge said. A highly dangerous young man who would pose a very considerable risk to women in the future. 5 months later, on July 10th, 2018, Rochester Cathedral hosts Molly's class graduation, and the cathedral hall is full, and within the audience there were 2 guests of honor, and those 2 guests being Molly's parents. The school gives Molly's parents her diploma, and the video in the documentary, you could see everybody stands up and starts applauding, starts cheering for Molly. And one of her friends states that she cheered as loud as she could because she wanted to keep Molly's memories alive. And if Molly was alive and accepting that diploma, that is how she would have cheered. So she was cheering as hard as she could for her friend. And also what I loved about seeing in the video is that you could see the community. You could see the love and the support that Molly's parents were getting after this tragic incident that took Molly's life. Well, since Molly's death, family and friends set up the Molly Mclaren Foundation to help people with eating disorders. And in Molly's community, every year for Molly's birthday, they host a charity festival called the Molly Fest. And if you would like to donate or learn a little bit more about the Molly Mclaren Foundation, I will leave a link down below. Will take you directly to her parents' website where the foundation is set up. If you or someone you know has or is going through cyber harassment, visit victimsofcrime.org. If you or someone you know is or has gone through domestic violence, visit thehotline.org. And that, my friends, was the story of Molly Mclaren, who sadly, her life was taken at 23 years young. She had a whole life to live. Thank you so much for joining me on today's case. If you have a specific case that you would like me to talk about, leave a comment down below, or you can DM me directly on my Instagram, wendyable.x. Thank you so much for your support, and I'll see you next video. Bye!